Tyson, good morning. Let me ask you this, sir. With respect to, let me get this right. Okay. Let's begin by telling this jury you and I have actually known each other for quite some time professionally. Is that right? Yes. You testified on behalf of plaintiffs in cases where I was representing the defendant. Is that right? Yes, that's true. And you've also testified at my request. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Doctor, are you a physician licensed to practice medicine in the state of New York? Yes. Would you please share with the court and jury something about your education and training? Okay. I went to college at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. I went to medical school at University of Virginia, and after graduating from medical school, I did an internship in surgery at Toronto General Hospital, and then a second year of surgery at Ohio State University Hospital. Defendant's counsel, I will concede the doctor's qualifications, Your Honor. Plaintiff's counsel, no, I want to put them on the record, Your Honor. The court, proceed. Doctor, do you currently hold any faculty positions at any medical schools? Yes, I'm professor of neurosurgery at the State University of New York. The court, are you willing now to accept the conclusion of counsel, that is, the concession of counsel? Plaintiff's counsel, no, Your Honor, with all due respect. The court, continue, counsel. Doctor, are you board certified? Yes, I am. Would you please explain to the jury what that means? I'm board certified in neurological surgery. It means that I satisfactorily completed a recognized training program that was at the University of Virginia. Doctor, have you contributed any chapters in textbooks? Yes, and would you please describe them to the jury? Most of my writing has related to injuries of the nervous system. I've also written a book on head injuries. Would you please describe to the jury what your duties as a professor at the medical school consist of? At this point, it involves mainly teaching medical students and teachers. Doctor, have you ever testified in court before? Yes. Would you please tell the jury about how many times? Defendant's counsel, objection. The court overruled. Oh, I would say I don't keep a scorecard, in the neighborhood of 70 times over now probably 20 or 22 years. Are you frequently called upon by attorneys representing both plaintiffs and defendants to review medical records in connection with lawsuits? Yes, I'm called by both. Do you testify on every case that you review? No, I testify on probably, again without a scorecard, I would guess 1 out of 5 cases that I review. Doctor, are you being compensated for your time away from the medical school and your office today? Yes. Would you, doctor, describe how you are being compensated to the jury, please? Well, for my time this morning, I'll be paid $2,000. Are you familiar, doctor, with the neurological standards of practice with regard to the treatment of spondylolisthesis as they existed in 1996? Yes, we've got models and we've got x-rays and anything you need to describe it to the jury. And before we get into that more specifically, I sent you materials to review with regard to the lawsuit brought by the plaintiffs against my client, the neurosurgeon, and that was back in 2000. Is that right? Yes, I believe my review was in August of 2000. And I sent you the pretrial depositions, bills of particulars, and medical records. Is that right? Defendant's counsel, I object. Leading. The court, objection is overruled. Yes. And since that time, I've also sent you some of the testimony in this trial. Yes, sir. Right up until this morning, and you had an opportunity to review the records of the Mercy Medical Center with regard to a surgery that was performed in October of 1996. Is that correct? Yes. And that surgery consisted of a laminectomy followed by a fusion with fixation using spinal instrumentation? Yes. Doctor, did you also have an opportunity to review the records of Dr. Diamond? Defendant's counsel, I object to the form. The court overruled. Yes. Doctor, do you have an opinion with a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to whether it was appropriate and in accordance with good and accepted practice for Dr. Diamond to recommend Mr. Crabbe undergo a decompression laminectomy? Yes, I believe it was appropriate. Please explain to the jury the basis of your opinion. The patient had a spondylolisthesis, which I suspect has already been explained to you, but as I'm talking about it, it's basically a partial dislocation of one vertebra on another. Normally, they're stacked one on top of each other. In a partial dislocation, one slips forward or, less commonly, slips backward, in this case, forward on another. There are a lot of symptoms that this condition can potentially cause. In this particular case, the history given suggested irritation of the nerve roots, which are the nerves that come out of the spinal cord. Is that correct or is that not correct, doctor? Well, I would say it is correct. Doctor, would you explain to the jury in this case the importance of the fixation part of the procedure? And again, we have models if you need them. Well, first of all, with regard to the Gill procedure, which is sort of a general term, there can be a lot of variations on it, and a Gill procedure really is a laminectomy with a few other things done. It doesn't repair or fix the slippage remains. What you're doing is relieving the pressure on the nerves due to the scar tissue and bone spurs that have formed as a result of the slippage and this constant but almost imperceptible amount of movement. The movement persists, and one rationale for doing a fusion is to eliminate that movement. Defense counsel moved to strike as totally unresponsive and inflammatory. The court overruled. Now, doctor, let me ask you this, since that objection was overruled. Would you like to assume, by coincidence, I'm taking this factor, and I would like you to assume that in 1996 I was operating a jackhammer and a pre-existing back problem existed. Would you now say that I had a laminectomy some 20 years earlier? No, I would not. And would you say that to assume that after a couple of days with my internist,
A little too fast.
too fast?
Let me email